Hello, welcome back to Character Day. I'm Tiffany Schlane.
Mackenzie Darling.
Renee Wilson.
And we've been having an amazing day. We're gonna just say a couple highlights so far before we jump into this next session. So what was one of your highlights so far?
Definitely interviewing Commander Anthony Cotton and everything he had to say about empathy. And I love the events with the kids in the elderly home and just the vision boards. Yes.
Gives you kind of faith in humanity again, right?
Definitely.
What was your favorite so far?
I agree with Renee. I really love visiting the different events. I loved visiting Mississippi and seeing their art projects around their favorite character strengths. And I also loved Angela Duckworth talking about how sharing advice is also really helpful for the advice giver themselves.
Yes, I love, and she's coming out with research on asking people for advice. Perfect for, we didn't plan that, but Angela and I, we do talk a lot about our work, but I'm like, that was meant to be, yes. Okay, so for this session, we have 200,000 events happening all over the world. If you're just tuning in, you can tap in here. We have a different speaker every 15 minutes, plus Mackenzie is like tapping into all these amazing events in Hong Kong and Bulgaria and Texas and Mississippi and so many cool places. And what's coming up is you're going to speak to Sonia Brown.
Sonia Brown in Bahamas.
And then I'm going to speak to two amazing people who provide a bully-proof environment and really talk about social and emotional learning and isolation in schools and how to get your power back, which I'm really excited about. And then I'm also speaking to ELAN about finding purpose and unlocking potential. So it's going to be a great session. And again, you can also watch the films, which you can find on characterday.org. Lots of resources. And and the best piece of advice. People have been giving great advice. If you're watching, you're like, I've heard of a great piece of advice. Put it in the Twitter or social stream, Cultivating Character, and I will let you go off to the Bahamas now.
All right,
Actually,
awesome. That's a great way to segue. I want to be in the Bahamas.
Could we have a retreat, a Character Day retreat in the Bahamas?
I won't say no to that, right?
Okay.
You're the boss.
Go to the Bahamas.
So I am so incredibly excited for this next guest. As the Director of Partnerships and Engagement for Let It Ripple, one of my favorite parts of my job is that I get to work with ambassadors all over the world, growing movements around character. And so Sonia Brown is the Character Day Bahamas committee chair. And we've actually had a relationship for the last 3 years. And so this will be the first time that we've been face-to-face actually having a real conversation. Do we have Sonia Brown on the line? There she is. Hello, how are you, Sonia? Can you hear me?
Okay.
She can't hear.
Okay, so do we keep the window open like this? Okay. You know what, this is perfect timing because they're working on a little via survey right now.
So I can hear you, Sonia, and I see your fabulous Character Day Bahamas t-shirt.
So just stay here.
I know that you made a couple years ago, and we had fabulous pictures of you last year, everyone rocking that t-shirt. While we're fixing the audio on your side, I'm going to be talking to our audience a little bit about all of your amazing initiatives. So Sonia has actually created an entire Character Day movement on all the islands in the Bahamas for the last 3 years, working with the PACE Foundation. And so she has worked with schools, congregations, corporations, also working with local sandals resorts, bringing Character Day events into these sandals resorts and having people all over the islands really engaging within Character Day. My favorite was that Sonia even created, or had it be created, a Character Day song, which I'm hoping, shout out to my team, later on that we can play that for all of you guys, because it's one of my favorites. Every single time that I'm in a bad mood, I just throw that on, and I'm immediately reminded about Character Day, our awesome work here, and people, talking about empathy and forgiveness and resilience throughout the country. They also have been working with radio and TV stations all over the Bahamas through the PACE Foundation. And so we're just so excited to have Sonia here. We're still working out some of the tech glitches, I guess, so I'll keep sharing some of Sonia's work. She works with a lot of teenage mothers and pregnant teenage mothers. And so developing character strengths within those mothers and bringing more education around the soft skills that we need is so important.
I can hear you.
You can hear me, Sonia? That is awesome. I can't see you, but I'm hoping you're up on screen. There you are, finally. I see you. I was looking so forward to finally like having this in-person moment with you. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to start off, why don't you tell the audience, how did you originally hear about Character Day?
Actually, about 4 years ago, I was listening to a speaker, and I heard me explain about Character Day. And so a wonderful initiative that I felt I could use to the Page Foundation and other partners, bring it to the entire.
So unfortunately, I'm having a little hard time with the audio again. We're just, this is an experiment in the living room, so we're just going to go with the flow here. But can you talk a little bit about your work with teenage mothers? I was, mentioning that before when we were having audio difficulties, and how you think character development can help the daily lives of these mothers.
Right. So the base program is teenage mothers, 1769, and we work with them to assist them getting back into the mainstream school or employment. And what generally we find is that for students, self-esteem is in the basement as and so we work with them so they feel better. They realize they don't need to give up, that there are others who found themselves and they can keep going.
Wonderful. And what support systems are important to you in developing strong character?
Well, it starts with the family. So that is the main system for all. The hard thing is some persons don't have family structure. They may be living very difficult lives. And we find that that's the case, unfortunately, for young people who school age. And so the school becomes critically important. And so at schools, we work with them so that they can work on their school, make sure it's kind for the students to come to. Very uniquely, we have junk. These are community junk canoe, festival, and even though it's only held in New York, throughout the year, the junk canoe group a second to a lot of young, especially men. And so support systems are critical in the development of people.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Sonia. Unfortunately, I'm having some difficulty hearing, but I just want to wrap up with if you can share your best piece of advice with our audience, we would love to hear it.
Well, my best piece is just to always be grateful. I think if we approach life with a grateful attitude, thankful for what has given us, rather than focus on what we don't, we will always be going.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We've really appreciated, Sonia. You have been such an example of how to grow this movement, and we just really appreciated you being one of our incredible ambassadors for the last 3 years. So have a wonderful Character Day.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you so much, Sonia, again, for taking the time to talk about the Bahamas initiative. We are up next with Tammy Darling from Lexington High School in Massachusetts. And someone's really, really excited. Hi, Tammy. How are you? Tammy has become a good friend of mine. She has the same exact last name as I do, so we call each other the Darling Darlings. And Tammy, tell me what's going on.
So we are in the lecture hall here, and we are doing, right now, students are finishing up a VIA survey so they can identify with their highest strengths. And so we talked a little bit about what character means, some of the important strategies and interventions to increase well-being, and then we are going to be watching The Science of Character, which is my favorite Let It Ripple film.
Amazing, amazing. That's terrific. And I think I would love for the audience to hear how Character Day has really inspired you to take on a whole new endeavor called the Mighty Project. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure I can. So should I face you? Can you see me?
Pardon?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So in 2015, it was my first Character Day, and I got really excited about the energy, the focus, about, again, what I said, really looking for what's best within us and seeing in others. And so from that event, I tried to figure out a way to build on it and to make it part of every day. So I went from a Character Day event in my classroom, then I did a Character Day event here, and then last year I piloted a character event each month. And so I highlighted different character strengths and invited students to come in. We did the Kahoot, the book giveaway, and we also unpacked some of the latest science about character. So it was really the application of what some of the scientists are starting to parse out so that we can take advantage of some of the science that we know increases well-being and flourishing. And it also kind of increases our capacity to engage in what our deep passions and curiosity are. So it evolved into a project that includes ways to do that, ways to engage in lesson plans. So there it is.
That's amazing. I've always loved your passion and your tenacity, Tammy. Can you talk a little bit? I would love to hear from you and then maybe a couple of your students. We're doing a social media campaign today, asking everyone to give a best piece of advice that they've ever received. So does anyone want to step up and offer some advice to us?
Sure. Can I share mine first?
I would love that.
Okay, so my piece of advice is never assess your condition when you're going uphill. And that I used to think about when I was running, but I do think it just relates to everything we're doing, whatever the challenge is. Wait to assess your condition until it passes. So
that's great. I agree.
We've got a couple of volunteers coming up.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Preethul. I'm a senior at LHS, and one piece of advice that I have is learning to be adaptable and keeping a positive attitude no matter what situation arises. Just doing your best to power right through it and learn how to change.
Could not agree more. That's a great piece of advice. Thanks so much for sharing. Any other takers? Oh, here we go.
We have a couple, yeah.
Great.
My name is Julie. I'm also a senior at LHS. And my piece of advice is that a lot of people say, don't let other people discourage you from who you want to be. But on the flip side, don't let other people encourage you and persuade you to be someone who you don't want to be. So obviously, you can take other people's advice, but at the end of the day, you should always be listening to yourself.
Absolutely. That's a great one. Stay true to yourself.
Hi, my name is Lenny, and my piece of advice, I'm also a senior, my piece of advice is to know about the importance of your decisions, whether or not other people are watching, because you can truly rely on yourself, your own values, and your perception of it.
Awesome, Lenny. And hey, before you go, I had a question. Talking about decisions, so what's going on next year? You're a senior. Where are you going? What's the plan?
I I'm actually very interested in medicine, so I'm just applying to colleges and seeing how that's going. So now I'm, yeah, have to make that decision very soon.
Wonderful. Well, best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, you got what? You got one more? Do you have time for one or two more?
Sawyer, you want to come up and join? Hold on, we have another host joining in.
Oh, I'll come.
Oh, this way. Never mind. Okay. Hi there.
That was so exciting to listen to, and I have to just say I grew up just a few towns over from you in Harvard, Massachusetts. That was really exciting. And then I was coming up to also join Mackenzie, and we're going to go to another event in Hong Kong. But thank you so much. You've been communicating with them, so you can wrap it up there. But we're gonna
Great.
move on to the next.
So we're going to Hong Kong now?
Wait,
Awesome.
Wait 1 second. There was somebody was just about to give their advice.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. We're gonna go to that for. Okay, we're going.
There we go. We're back to you.
We're back.
Okay, cool. Okay. Hi, my name is Zoe. I'm a senior at LHS High School. My piece of advice is be the best you can be because you're unique.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I love that. So now we're going to be going to an event from Hong Kong that happened last evening. Hong Kong has been celebrating Global Character Day for the last 3 years, and in a big way. And so they have this huge event in Telford Plaza, which is one of the largest largest malls in Hong Kong. So here we go.
At 2018 Character Day Hong Kong. I want to welcome you to our celebration of Character Day in Hong Kong, and we're currently at Telford Plaza, one of the busiest malls in our city. My name is Christine, and I am the founder and chairperson of Character Education Foundation, the organizer of Character Day in Hong Kong. We're so thrilled to be celebrating Character Day for the 3rd time in Hong Kong as a citywide event. This year, we are especially thrilled because we have some very special guests with us. Today, we have the Secretary of Education and the Permanent Secretary from the Home Affairs Bureau, both from the Hong Kong government. We also have representatives from the Hong Kong Jockey Club Charities Trust. We have representatives from universities across our city, educational organizations, other charities, and members of the press coming to support this event. So we are so thrilled. Last 3 years, we've been able to work with over 200 schools and organizations in bringing Character Day and its discussions and events to them, as well as having our messages of character and the importance of character across trains and train stations across our city. In total, every year we get about a press value of over 20 million Hong Kong dollars. So it's been very exciting to see the momentum that's built up in our city in character education, and we're really hoping for more. We're so thankful that we get to be a part of this global movement in bringing character and character education to the forefront, and we really hope that the rest of the world will have great celebrations as we have in Hong Kong here. So wishing you all a happy Character Day. 品格日快樂。
Hello, we're back for Character Day. It's such a wonderful day. There's over 200,000 events happening all over the world, and I'm particularly interested in this next discussion. It's so fun for me because it's like I get to invite all the people I find most interesting on this subject for a day of a deep dive. So for our next conversation, I have Laura TALMUS, who's the co-founder of Beyond Differences. It's an organization that helps a culture of belonging for middle schoolers. And I also have someone I just met, but I went to a great session he did at the Mill Valley School District. Nicholas Carlisle is the founder and CEO of No Bully. And he works on creating a culture of respect and values and compassion at school. So you both are very interconnected. And I was like, ooh, how fun if we all talk together. So welcome to you both. Hi.
Hi, Nick.
Hi.
Do you two know each other?
We know each other well.
Okay, I just am knowing you both together. So I'm like, this is like my dream dinner party. So like, let's talk about this. So I'm interested, maybe you could each just take like a minute and explain kind of where you're coming into on this issue of really it's social emotional learning and character in schools. How do we create an environment in schools that helps make the best people and make them feel good and like they're working on themselves and they're mindful of other people's working on themselves and who they are too. So it'd be great to hear from each of you on where you're coming from. Laura, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you so much, Tiffany. This is a thrill. And Nicholas and I started almost similarly a number of years ago. I think it's 8 years for me, and maybe Nicholas has been around for 10 years. So we've had the pleasure of working together and overlapping. But I think this is a perfect forum for talking about what we're concerned and most worried about and most excited about fixing, which is adolescent social isolation. When we began Beyond Differences, we stumbled into this issue that kids are feeling disconnected and not feeling like they can be accepted or seen for who they are. And our methodology, if you will, has been to work with students in middle school, but bring high school students into their grade levels and inspire them to pick their heads up, feel as if they are now more aware of what others might be feeling like in their own school, and then be the leaders of change. And as kids in middle school, they're really turning to one another for that kind of connection. And that's also who they're listening to most likely. And so we have all kinds of groovy things for the kids to do in middle school, but mostly we're concerned about this public health crisis, that if we left it as was and just considered middle school is always going to be that way and it's a funky time and kids have to get through it, that's not going to be good. And we're not raising the next generation of adults the way we need to.
I only wish that you were around when I was in middle school because that was such a tough, I don't know anyone that maybe I know a handful, but it was such a hard period. And Nicholas, I know you do a lot of work in that space too. So why don't you talk about your perspective in the schools, which need it so much?
It's gone silent my end. Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me at all? Oh. Let's see. Okay, there. Nicholas cannot. Can you hear me at all? Do you want to give me a thumbs up? You can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, great, great.
Yeah.
I would love it if you could just talk about. Did you hear anything that Laura said?
Some of it, yeah.
Okay. Well, I was just asking each of you to give your kind of philosophy in coming into the schools. Yeah. So why don't you? Because you have run a great program called No Bully. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I started No Bully in 2003 because bullying is increasingly a problem. The most recent statistics on bullying are showing that about 1/3 of kids are being bullied, which is huge. So the question then is, how do you turn that around? And it is character. So what we know is that 98% of kids are wired for compassion.
Can I hear your screen then? Because I can't hear what he's saying.
Wait a second, we're hearing Laura happening. Sorry. It's okay. Nicholas, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay.
Let me tell you, we're linking together over 200,000 events. It's all an experiment, so sometimes the technical. So go ahead, Nicholas.
Yes. So 98% of kids are wired for the earliest years, and that's a really insightful statistic. The question then is, how do you awaken their empathy? And the short answer is that is stop threatening to punish the hell out of them, which is the old method of school. So what no bully does is go into schools, teach schools a system on bullying. And the heart of that is tapping into the empathy of students. And we have a very structured process for solution. And the amazing thing is, if you tap into the empathy of students, in nearly every case of bullying, you can solve it.
Mm. Yeah, and I loved what you said when I heard you speak a couple weeks ago is, you know, people are being bullied and sometimes they're also bullying. And so I think the labeling, it sounds so specific, like someone's a bully or they're being bullied, but a lot of times in school, when kids are trying to figure out their place in the social order, it goes back and forth. And I think that was a really healthy thing to hear. And I actually really liked, Nicholas, how you were talking about power. Like if a kid's being bullied, what do you tell the kid? How can you tell the parents and the teachers to support that child? And can you talk a little bit about one's power, getting one's power back?
Yeah, one of the central needs of anyone, and you see it in schools, is to find belonging. And another word for belonging is status or power. And really, a lot of the dynamics we're seeing around bullying is really around power. And so that means two things. For a child that's being bullied, the question is, how do you get your power back? And it's a really live question for them. I remember a kid in middle school in Marin here, and I said to him, how do you get your power back? He's being bullied. And he looked at me in amazement, and the light bulb went off his head and said, yeah, this kid's taking my power away. And I said, how can you get your power back? And he said, well, I could thump this other kid. So I said to him, that's kind of bullying back, isn't it? And he nodded and smiled. But out of that dialogue grew this exploration of superheroes. He loved comics. And I sent him on this quest to figure out, for this comic hero, what he did when his power was challenged and how he managed to find his power in what is sometimes a hostile world. And so Will, which is the name of this kid, came back to me with this amazing finding. And I don't know which comic to thank for this language, but he said, if you stand tall, people cannot jump on your back. And that really is the heart of it for the targets of bullying. They need to find their spine again. They need to find their place in the world. And often it's too much for them by themselves. Often they need support of their peers, which is why Laura's program is so fantastic, because it gathers peers around them. And they often need the support of their teachers and their principals to really turn the situation around, that they don't have sufficient power to turn around by themselves.
I love that. And Laura, one of the programs that I love the name of, because it is what it is the No One Eats Alone. And I was talking about Character Day at my daughter's elementary school, Park Elementary. And I used your example of, you know, how many of you have ever seen someone eat alone? And like a third of the hands went up. And how do you think that person's feeling? And it was so beautiful. Everyone took the mic and expressed how they were feeling. And then I said, here's an empathy exercise for the week. This week, you're going to ask 3 people to eat lunch with them if they're eating alone. And it's such a, I mean, I'm almost getting choked up, because everyone knows that feeling, whether you were picked last on a team, whether you were eating alone, and you have a whole day. Can you tell us about this program? It's so beautiful, because it's both the name, the goal is in the name.
Yes.
It's such a beautiful exercise, and talk to us about what you do in the schools and the whole kind of national day of it.
Sure. Thanks, Tiffany. I'd be happy to. And I think what Nicholas just said around the word power is so important to us. The name in and of itself implies that no one has the power over another student at school. No One Eats Alone is a levelizing, equalizing name. So we came to that quite thoughtfully and quite seriously. Second, not surprisingly, social movements also come through personal experiences and through stories. And this happened to be the situation that my daughter found herself in every day in middle school, which is not having anybody to eat with, and often getting phone calls when she was hiding to come pick her up because it was the lowest moment of her school day. We now know that millions of children are sitting by themselves at lunch or hiding in the library, maybe in an adult's classroom, maybe wandering around and trying just to occupy their time. So No One Eats Alone Day came about out of necessity, out of love, and out of inspiration from real lives of real children. And it is now our biggest program. We pick around Valentine's Day every year. So it's the Friday before or after Valentine's Day. And we celebrate No One Eats Alone Day this coming year in 2019. We expect to be in about 2,500 middle schools throughout the United States, which is really like over 1 million children are participating. And we send free toolkits in the form of a little purple backpack that goes out to each school. It has teachers' curriculum in it. It has student leadership activities. And more importantly, there's a group art project that the kids work on together to create that kind of inclusive, fun, celebratory atmosphere at lunch. It's grown, and we're just really delighted that it is spread into every state in the country. There is not one state in the country that does not have multiple schools that are working with No One Eats Alone Day.
Well, we have about 15,000 schools that are participating in Character Day. I want all of them to participate in No One Eats Alone. That would just make the world so much better, because, you know, we have a speaker coming up later in the day, and, you know, her child was a Sandy Hook victim, and, you know, so much of the issues around school violence, so much of it comes from the social, emotional, and character work. And it's so important that we have the real conversation, which is this. And both of your work is so, I can't believe I only have 5 more minutes with you two, but okay, you told us about No One Eats Alone. Nicholas, please tell us about the Bully Proofing the School program. I want all the schools that are going to be tapping in to know about both of your programs so they could bring them to their schools.
Well, I haven't met a school that doesn't want to turn around bullying. I haven't met a school that hasn't got some students who are being bullied. So what we aim to do is to help the schools become bully-free, and we do it in 2 dimensions. So we aim to prevent bullying and to coach schools how to prevent bullying by creating an inclusive culture. And we're talking about leading culture change. And most school leaders have not been trained how to do that. So as part of our 1-year partnership with schools, we assign them a no bully trainer, and we coach the leadership team how to create a culture where every student feels like they belong. And then in parallel with that, we're training core staff in the school. How do you actually interrupt bullying? We do a training for all the teachers, a 3-hour training, basic training around that. And then what we're famous for is solution teams, because every school has, every year, 10, 15 students, the target of relentless bullying. And that takes some skill to turn around. So say, and this is a true story, Alvaro is being targeted, and he was in a fairly rough high school in California. And he was being targeted for being gay, in this case. And we brought together the students who are bullying together with 3 or 4 of the positive leaders in that school. So we had about 8 students sitting around the table. Alvaro was not there. It's too stressful for the target of bullying. And we said to those students, we're actually, one of the staff in the school we'd trained, one of the janitors said to those students, you're not in trouble, and actually you're a solution team because you've got the power to really change a situation. And this is what it feels like to be Alvaro. And they walked those students into Alvaro's shoes. And they said, Alvaro dreads coming to school. Sunday's the worst night of the week for him. And every day he hears comments like, that's so gay, you're so gay. No one wants to spend any time with him. And what was amazing, we just pause a second. Are you hearing other voices?
Yeah, no, I can hear. I'm just making sure that I can hear you as deep. No, I love both of those. Yeah. I want everyone to know about both of your programs, and we will include your URL in follow-up so people can find out about it. And I'm told I have to wrap up like right now, but quickly, we're asking everyone the best piece of advice that they've heard. If you could be concise, we feel like it really is sharing wisdom, and it gives real insights on character strengths that you value. So is there the best piece of advice you'd like to share to close out the session? Laura, do you want to go first?
I would go first and say to parents of middle school age children to please send your children to school every day, asking them to find someone that they don't know and bring them into their social circle and get to know somebody new and make them feel included.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful piece of advice for all parents. And Nicholas, do you have a closing piece of advice?
Yeah, so if you're a parent and your kids bully, start a conversation with them and explore this question: how can you get your power back? Just invite them in the exploration.
I love that. Thank you both for the such important work you're doing in our society and our schools and helping raise the next generation and a space of belonging, which is, I love that word belonging. It's just like makes me smile when I hear it. That's what we all want. For the rest of our lives, we just want to belong. And I think that never ends. And if you can learn the tools in school, and if people can be compassionate.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me still?
Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Tiffany. Good to see you, Nicholas.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, that was so great. I don't know, I got so choked up because the thought of, and we've all been in that situation, and just having someone say, can I eat lunch with you, and how much that meant back then. And there's so many different manifestations of that in today's world. I think there's a lot of bullying in our culture right now. And when I first heard Nicholas speak, I was thinking, about getting your power back, and I made this film about women in power. And I think there's a lot of bullying with women, their place in society, and I think we need to get all of our power that we rightfully deserve to make it a more balanced society. But a lot of the terminology with bullying felt very familiar to me. I know a lot of women struggle in society, so I think there's some parallels there. So if we can all be conscious of everyone having their power, letting other people have their power, I think we'd have a much healthier society. A lot of compassion and belonging. That's like the most beautiful word. It sounds like a hug, doesn't it? Like belonging. I just feel, it makes me feel happy. So, okay. Next. I'm getting all emotional here. Okay, well that's good because I'm about to speak to someone that I love talking to. ELAN DIVON, and he is a Harvard-trained author and speaker dedicated to helping people unlock their potential and find their path. He's also the founder and CEO of the new DIVON Academy. He's going to tell us all about that. So we are really excited to have him join us here. Is he on the line? Oh, hello.
Hi. It's so great to see you.
Yes, it is so nice to see you in this setting. And have you been tuning in at all today? Have you seen all the interesting people?
I have.
Yeah.
Amazing. It got me thinking, just the last panel on what's going on in schools and bullying, and a lot of work to do, but it made me think about some of the things that I'm doing and how empathy. I mean, how important empathy is today, teaching empathy in schools. So
no, it's so, I mean, I think your work, when we program this next to each other, because your work is taking people at this next stage, and these are all building blocks. I mean, we're always working on all of these issues, our sense of belonging, and but so much of it, so much childhood trauma. I'm going to my 30-year high school reunion this weekend, and I had a hard time, and college were the best years of my life, so let's just say that. So I think a lot of us are continuing to work through whatever issues happen in middle school and high school. But why don't you talk a little bit about, you've spent so much of your career talking about unlocking people's potential. So what is your perspective? And you and I have had so many great conversations about character, but I'd love to hear your perspective on this whole issue.
Sure. So how people come into their potential.
Yeah.
So I think one of the main things I tell people about coming into their potential and finding what they're really good at is taking action. It's by getting out there into the world and experimenting, trying different things. Particularly if you're in your 20s and 30s, it's a time to take risks, try different things, and see what sticks. Because a lot of times you think you know what you love doing, but when you actually do it, you realize it's not exactly what you love doing, and it's not what you're good at, and you'd rather do something else. So the first real way to figure out what you love doing and what you're passionate about is by taking action. Another way I would say is to think about, or really, what makes you come alive? What are those things that you do that really make you come alive and that you would actually do even if you weren't being paid for it? So you want to look at those things. A final thing I would say, a lot of people talk about, following your passion, following your bliss, and that's true, and it's all good and well. But something that I think is not discussed is you've got to look at not just what you love doing, but what you fear doing. Because a lot of times, what you're really good at, you might resist in some way initially, or you may have some fear towards it. So, for example, you've got someone like Winston Churchill, one of the greatest orators of our, the last century of all time, who had this fear of public speaking. I mean, he had a stutter as a child, and he had to really work at that. So he had a fear of public speaking, but that was his purpose and that was his passion, and he had to work at that and confront his fear. And the same thing with James Earl Jones, right? The voice of Darth Vader and This Is CNN, who was a mute as a child and had a tremendous fear of public speaking, but that became his life calling and his purpose.
Well, I love what you were saying about, because I think that expression, like follow your passion, it's almost become so cliche. I don't even know what it means anymore. But when you said, I mean, I know what it means, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I love what you said about when do you feel most alive? And I started thinking about that a lot, because I love making films, and I love giving talks. But but there's a lot, there's a lot of things that have to happen for those two things to happen. And I started to, write in my journal a lot, but I really did try to write down, when did I feel most alive? I mean, I think doing these global days, I feel very alive because just the energy from all these different groups, but it's a really good practice to have people write it down. When did you feel alive? And I almost feel like that's a little bit more tangible than what are you passionate about? Because it's like, it's a feeling and it's a fresh way of experiencing it. And you've just started a new academy. So tell us what age range this academy is for and some of the methodology around that.
Sure. So actually, I was going to say we did our first workshop on Saturday for DIVON Academy.
Mazel tov.
But I thought to myself, thank you. But I thought, what better day to sort of publicly launch it than here on Character Day? So today we're sort of officially publicly launching DIVON Academy. I think it's so fitting to do it here with you and with Character. And so what do? We work with 3 different demographics. We prepare high school students for college. We prepare college students for the real world and the challenges they're going to face when they finish college. And we work with young professionals on helping them figure out their path and really thrive in this chaotic, stressful world that we're living in. And what makes us unique, or what makes us different, is that we focus on the 3 biggest indicators or predictors of long-term success. So a lot of people think that success is all about your intelligence, your IQ, your technical skills. But that's actually 25% will predict your long-term success. 75% of your long-term success is predicated on 3 things: on your mindset, on your social skills, and your ability to handle stress. And so all of our programs really work on those 3 things, and character is a central thing underlying those three facets, which will help people be more successful and have a more well-balanced lifestyle, if you will.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the social, the mindset, growth mindset, and the social is so important. It's really interesting. Nicholas in his talk, he said, what does every parent want for their child? They say, I want them to be happy, well-adjusted. And what's the #1 indicator for that is relationships. Can your child navigate and hold relationships and know how to strengthen them? And that's social emotional learning. I'm so glad it's being so elevated as something that we need to focus on, because for so long it was math and science and all of these things that are super important, but not at the detriment of really focusing on the emotional part, the thinking and the emotional part of who we are.
Yes.
So you and I normally talk for an hour at a time. This is much shorter, unfortunately, but so glad you're launching. And we're closing. We've been asking people all over the world at the 200,000 groups and online what the best piece of advice they've received. And I know I have multiple ones, but for this day and where you are and all of that, is there one that you could share with all of us? And it's very illuminating on what strengths you value or that you're working on. So what's your best piece of advice?
The best piece of advice I can offer anybody, because, I have a saying that, and I don't know if it's my saying, but I've sort of taken it from a few places and coined it. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is power if and only if you act upon it consistently.
Ooh.
Everybody knows, we all know what we need to do to live a better lifestyle, to get, to be more fit, to be more healthy. to land our dream job, but that doesn't necessarily make us do it. And so what I focus on, or the biggest advice that I've sort of taken with me, and I keep this at my table at my home office, I have a picture of myself, and I have this quote below, and it says, by doing, it is done.
I love it. I love it. Oh, they're making me rap. That could be like a whole session, but that is so beautiful. By doing,
it is done.
I love
Absolutely.
it. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be sure to share your website of your new academy.
Thank you.
It is always great to talk to you. And thank you, and congratulations.
Good luck with the rest of it.
Thank you.
Bye, Tiffany.
And so now am I going to get to invite some people back to join me? I'm doing it solo. This is me, myself, and I. Sir, you don't even want to come in here? No one wants to join me? Am I eating alone?
Okay.
Come in. I'm feeling lonely. I want to feel. Okay, good. So.
No one eats alone.
No one closes alone. Oh, I'm feeling. Come on in.
Come on in.
Sure, just come sit.
We've got about 30 more seconds.
30 seconds. Just sit with me. Okay.
What were some of your takeaways from that last session?
Some of the takeaways, oh gosh. Well, I got really choked. I mean, the no one eats alone and the bullying stuff is so big. It's in our culture. It's not just with kids that we, being kids, having our kids, but it's in society. This kind of bullying, stuff is everywhere. So how do we really bring it to the forefront? That got me. What you guys were watching them. What spoke out to you?
Well, that, and I was also thinking along those lines of weaving in some of the conversations that we've been having earlier, is that yes, bullying is at an extreme, and but maybe are we talking about the same thing in a different language? Are we talking about?
We're always wrestling with these.
We're always wrestling with these things, and we as a kid, I experienced it in a different way than what kids are experiencing now.
Yeah, I don't think it's
and
not
so
that
how?
different.
So
Yeah.
yes, there are new things, and we have we have more technology, we have new factors that we're wrestling with, but we can also look to history and other patterns and throughout cultures to figure out, new methods.
Yeah, I guess I don't think it's not new. I mean, I think it was there. There's more language for it. I think there's more focus on it. Like did you ever remember anyone in school like talking about like breaking down the social emotional learning at school? I mean, I didn't. I'm 48 and I don't ever remember that discussion.
It was just happening and no one was really addressing it.
Right. So that's what's exciting, I guess, is just that we're talking about it.
Well, putting a name to it and having language to it lets us talk about it and have tools.
And you know what Mike's doing? He's saying, wrap it up. Okay, let me tell you what's happening. Like, you're seeing us and we're like talking, we're acting like, and then he's in the background going like, woo!
He's going like literally 10 seconds.
He's like,
10 seconds now.
So
okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Are we still saying it?
Yeah, that was,